Literally girl so confusing.
Girls so confusing.
That is the entire dynamic.
But every time you do have a conflict with a friend, it is an opportunity to like strengthen the relationship more.
Hi, I'm Sarah, and this is Small Talk. It's not quite a news headline, but it is what the girls are talking about. And I'm here with Al and Sal from Two Broke Chicks.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hello.
I'm so excited to have you guys on finally. It feels, we were just saying before, but it feels weird that you haven't yet.
Literally.
I feel like every time I have someone on this podcast, I'm like, here's someone I used to produce and as a friend. This also is in that.
Literally.
But you guys,
good.
I love your podcast. You've written a book called Finding Your People, and you guys have like a merch line as well, socials, everything, known for your
Busy
shopping
girls.
cheat. No, the hardest workers in the industry, I would say.
That's such high praise coming from you.
Oh my God, you guys are doing so much and it's all so good. And I just thought you guys would be perfect for this episode that I really wanted to do, because we get a lot of messages asking about friendships, and I don't even know why we haven't done a small talk episode on it yet, because it seems like such an obvious like bucket to talk about.
Totally.
But you guys make sense because you guys have, like, as I just said, your book is called Finding Your People. And I feel like that's such a nice way of talking about friendship as well, because it is that. It is about finding. And a lot of the girls that have been messaging seem to be early 20s, like teenage, which is awesome.
It's like
So I'm like, oh my God, Gen Z.
Yeah, we're young, we're relevant, in cool with the kids.
But I think it's genuinely relevant your whole life. And I think it's like there's the early 20s conversation, but I'm also feeling it again. Like it almost happens every few years. There's like something's in the water and everything
It's like a
changes again.
7-year, there's actually a study, it's like a 7-year cycle.
Oh, I believe that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that follows like, and when you look at like growing up, it's like primary school, like 7 years, and high school 7 years, and you do like uni and like 20s, and that's why a lot of studies come out and they're like, if you're friends for longer than 7 years, you're going to be friends for a lifetime.
Yeah.
We cracked 7 years
Yeah, we did.
this year, actually.
You guys are so interesting about this as well, because you not only have been friends for so long, but you've also made your brand your friendship as well, which is kind of a crazy concept, like a terrifying concept as well. But for some reason, if anyone else...
I actually hate her. We're not even friends.
But if anyone else did that, like, you'd almost be a bit scared, like, oh my God, what if something happens? But you guys don't stress me out with that at all.
Thank you.
No. We actually, like, we were talking about this last year because I feel like there were just so many, like, friendship breakups last year that I was like, what's going on? I was like, Sally, we next?
Something's in the water.
Yeah, but we always just say, it's like, if we ever started fighting, we just stop doing the job. Like, we just stop doing the job because we know what our friendship was like before it. So it's like, that's not worth losing. Whereas I think sometimes you like, when you become friends with someone and you're working with them and that's how you become friends, that's always where the relationship is.
Yeah. And you guys are funny because you were work friends before this.
Yes.
Like, but now you work for yourselves.
Work
but
waves.
like, there is such a bond with friends that you make at work though.
The trauma that you go through
It's trauma
at work
bonding.
is unmatched. Like you need that person that in those meetings you can stare at and have that quiet conversation in your minds. Because otherwise, how do you survive?
Sal used to bring me a change of clothes to work because I was seeing someone that lived like so far away from me. And then I would go back to theirs. And like that morning I'd text Sal and I'd be like, I don't have clothes. I don't have clothes. And she would come into the bathroom and I'm wearing the same clothes the day before being like, help. And she would dress me. And I'd be like, I'm a slut. Help.
Yeah.
But also like that's the other thing with work friends is you end up oversharing so quickly because you trauma bond and then you're like, this person has to listen to me.
Literally.
And so you end up just sharing your entire life story to someone and it's such a special friendship. And then you have to try and do that weird thing where you try and transition it to the outside world.
Yeah.
It's like, are we outside world
Are we
friends?
real
instead?
friends
Yes.
Yeah. But that's the biggest heartbreak when your work wife like moves on to another job.
Oh, it's
before
heartbreaking.
It's like, yeah. It's a pain like no else.
Well, I want to ask the question today. how do you know when you found your people? That is the never ending question of like, is it okay if I'm not friends with someone for very long? Or is it okay to leave friendships? Or if I don't have a girl group? Or I just feel like that's a lot of the questions we've been getting recently. So I want to start with, what would you say your like green flags are in a friendship?
Oh, I love this.
My first green flag is that you're not left questioning, because kind of like you were saying, there are some friendships and you're like, you might leave an interaction with them and you're like, oh, like that was a bit weird. Or, you know, you might celebrate something on social media and you notice they don't like it and you're like, what's going on there? Or you're thinking, oh, like I'm always the one reaching out to them. They never reach out to me. And you have some of these questions coming up. I think when you found your people, you realize you leave an interaction with them and you feel lighter and more fulfilled, and you're not left like psychoanalyzing the things that were said or were done. And you just feel at peace and content with the friendship.
I think you leave the relationship energized, because there are those friendships, which I would actually say is like the red flag, where when you spend time together, you leave drained and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
And it's those friendships that are dutiful, that often are friendships that you're like, oh, I've known them since I was 7 years old and we plaited each other's hair in the sandbox. But like you've grown apart, and that friendship can be a bit draining, but you're there out of obligation. Whereas like you can find your people in someone that you've known for literally 6 months and you're leaving that interaction like energized and lighter, and that your cup is full and rather than empty.
That is such a big part of it. And for me, it's also, I feel like I see friendships in the same way I view love languages as well.
Yes.
Like sometimes people need to be very intense with their friends, and then some people don't. And then like some people need them to physically show up, and then others just like want to text every now and again. And so I feel like for me in friendships, I love that feeling of no time passed is like the green flag.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a particularly, like I don't feel like I need to. Some of my best friends I would only see every few months.
You're a secure attachment girly with your friends.
Friendships, not in relationships.
Let me clarify.
Let me clarify. Anxious girl.
With friends. Because we spoke about it previously.
But with friends, I feel very secure. I don't need that. But as long as when we see each other again, it has that no time past feeling. They're the friends that I treasure.
And that's what I think is like the green flag, is that like if your friendships have that secure attachment feeling. And then the other one, it was like, you know, you found your people when you're celebrated rather than tolerated.
Yeah.
And I was like, ow. But also that's really nice, because when you look back at like friendships that didn't have the green flag and you're like, yeah, I did feel like tolerated in that, or I don't feel like I was celebrated. Like green flag friends are the ones that clap so loud you don't hear the people that don't.
But that also plays into, and I guess this was kind of the red flag, but it's what we're saying. It's the secret animosity.
Yes.
Because that's what it is. And you can sense it when someone's like actually a number one hater, but
and you're like,
they're your friend.
Yeah.
And it's so, I think girls are bad for this particularly.
Yeah.
The girl world can be really tough and girl friendships can be tough at sometimes.
Yeah.
Because it's like frenemies.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
it's competitive. There's actually a chapter in Florence Given's book, Women Living Deliciously, and she says women are like crabs in a bucket. And there's this whole thing about how when crabs are like in the wild, I'm David Attenborough now, when they're in the wild, they are really cohesive and they work together really well and they're like living communities. But when you trap crabs in a bucket, this is the weirdest thing, but bear with me, they like help each other and like build a tower to try and get out of the bucket. But as soon as the first crab is about to escape, another one will sabotage like the tower, because if you can escape but I can't, then no one's allowed to.
Yeah.
And that can sometimes be what friendships are like. And that's a toxic friendship, because they don't want to see you succeed if they're not succeeding.
I know. And there's also something, because you know everyone says, look for the friends that are there when you're at your worst. I also think look for the friends that are there that are at your best. Because some people, I think there's something in that secret animosity friendships that it's actually the ones that are happy to celebrate you. Because sometimes, and I mean, I haven't experienced this myself, but I've spoken to friends about this in the past, friends that like it when you're down. Like kind of like
Well,
it
also
when
sometimes people have like a bit of a savior complex
yes,
as well, and they
there's
can
that.
dive in and be like,
They can
well,
come in and
I was
fix.
there for you and I did all this when you were down and out, and but that can give
But
you a
they get, like,
superiority
yeah.
complex.
And it's a bit of a weird way to start a friendship, especially.
Totally.
Because it does create like a weird
Power
dynamic.
dynamic.
I hate the motherly friend. I hate the friend that thinks that they're like, oh, honey, are you sure you want to go out with him after everything? Shut up. Let me make my bad choices. Like, I know exactly what you're talking about when you're being like the friend that likes to like swoop in and be like, let me fix your life, you poor little baby that can't do anything for yourself. And like, ugh.
Yeah, I think it's a fine line for sure. Because of course you want to be there for your friends, but I do almost think it shows more effort to be there for them during the good times, especially if you're going through a tough time, because you have to put your pride aside, and it's not about you and what you're going through. It's about celebrating your friend and building them up.
Yeah.
And also sometimes your friends are also going through their shit. Like sometimes you can't expect, if you're going through a rough patch, you can't always expect your friends to be the ones to get you through it because they might also have their own shit.
No. And that is, this is the next question I was going to ask, but I'll start it. It was, what's like the best friendship advice you've ever received?
Ooh.
And my mum taught me this very early on, and I think it was such sound advice. And she said, there's different friends for different days. And I live by that. I think I have friends that I recognize exactly the role they're meant to play in my life, and it fits perfectly. Like sometimes they're a going out friend. Sometimes they're the stay on the phone for 6 hours, like tell every detail of your life friend. I can't even explain it, but it's just they make sense in the role that I've made for them, and I don't put the expectations for them to be every single one of those friends.
Yeah.
Because I think that is putting unrealistic expectations on. If you put that on one person to be super emotionally in tune with you, but then also go on a night out and then also be that, like, it's too much on one person.
Yeah, no one person can fill every single cup that you need as well. So that's too much pressure on that friendship. And we say, like, in the book, but also just as a general sort of life lesson, that friendships can be a season, a reason, or a lifetime. And I think that friendships within themselves can ebb and flow through seasons. So you could have that friend that used to be like your going out girl, you're both single and going through that. And then, you know, maybe one of you gets a partner, so then you're not spending as much time together. And then like the friendship can also ebb and flow and change, and that's okay.
That is such a good point, because there's something, I think you kind of realize this in your later 20s as well. And it's something a lot of the people that are messaging in those early 20 messages like, oh, I'm drifting from friends. And I almost just want to say, it's okay. They're not actually going far. You're just not at the same life stage right now.
Yeah.
But I had so many friends that I was really close with in high school, and then in my early 20s didn't see as much because they got in really serious relationships and I didn't, or they got really involved with work, or I got really involved with work, and we just weren't on the same timeline. And now they're back around because now they've broken up, or I've done this, or whatever it is, and we're now back in a similar life stage, and it just kind of comes back. So I think that's like cutting people off for like not being everything you need in those early 20 years is really dangerous, because they will come back around. It's just it's okay to be in different stages right now.
Yeah.
It's like you're in different orbits.
Yes.
Like you'll be in an orbit of a new relationship or a new workplace. And sometimes like, well, I don't even think sometimes. I think life is too overwhelming in general that like that's all you can focus on at points in time, that you're like, I'm just getting through this thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And I just got to do that. And I've just got to focus on this new job and doing a really good job.
Yeah.
And I can't really come to like 17 birthdays this month. I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Like, and that's it. I also do think we expect a lot from friendships sometimes, like to do so many things because we see it all on social media. Like on a Saturday, like social media, like everyone's Instagram stories are rammed. And if you don't have plans, you end up feeling like shit. Or if you don't have a group of friends, you end up feeling like shit. And you don't have to have these things. Like having a group of friends is not a prerequisite to being a good person. And we do have this expectation, and maybe it's from things like pop culture, like shows like Friends or New Girl or Gossip Girl, even though
Sex and the City.
That's not, don't use Gossip Girl as Good Friends example. That one's crazy. But the Sex and the City, and like that's not necessarily relatable either.
Honestly, the most relatable version of that is the show Girls. Like,
Yeah.
that is the only
I
like
haven't
realist.
watched it.
Oh my God.
They're all, you watch it and it's like these
Do you
girls
hate everyone?
you hate everyone.
Yeah, there's no likable
There is-
characters.
But it also holds a mirror up because you recognize a little bit of yourself or a little bit of some of your friends in each character. So you love them, but you're like, objectively, you're messy.
Yeah.
But there's something very realistic
Yeah.
about it.
I've seen the one scene where she goes into her friend's like wedding and she's wearing like the makeup. And she's like, I just think it's a bit much. Like,
There's
funny.
so many
Relatable.
lines
Yeah.
from it. It's so funny. But yeah, no, I agree. And I think for the people that were messaging about not having a girl group, I think that is tough because it's being pushed really hard
Yeah.
on every social media front. And it is true. Female friendships are so beautiful and they are the core, they are the rock, they are everything. But I think right now, the way it's being marketed is you really feel like something's wrong with you if you don't have that.
Or people say, like, and I hate when people say this because they've said it to us before. They've been like, yeah, if someone doesn't have like a group of friends, like that's a red flag. And I'm like, no, it's not. Like, it's not. If someone comes in and they're complaining about how they've been the victim of every single friend they've
Yes.
ever had,
Not being able to
that is a
maintain
red flag.
friends
Yes.
is probably the red flag.
If they bitch about every single person they've ever met or been friends with and how they were the victim of every scenario, yes, I would probably be like, okay, I'm going to keep that in my front of mind.
Yeah.
But like if someone doesn't have a large group of friends just because they don't have a large group of friends, that's not a red flag.
No.
Yeah.
It's also like sometimes people have friends from different groups as well. It's not
yeah,
like
they don't
sometimes
necessarily
they're the floater.
they're the
intertwine.
floater.
Yeah. Love a
Justice
floater.
to the floaters.
Justice for the floaters.
Honestly, they're
Yeah.
they're an important part of every friendship group.
I feel like you're a bit of a floater.
1000%.
Yeah.
Like, self-identified
Sal's
floater.
got so many pockets of friends.
Yeah. But I also have like strong boundaries of saying no to things and prioritizing my own time, which I do think is really important too.
You are very good with like boundaries and communication. And we've spoken about, I remember when we did episodes for your podcast as well, and you would talk about how you would go with managing when friendships got difficult as well, which is kind of what I wanted to talk about in this episode as well, of like when you realize, say there is animosity or whatever it is in a friendship and you're going, okay, this one's not serving me very much. And they could come back around or who knows what's happened. But how do you go about putting boundaries in place with friends?
I think it really comes down to what the scenario is and also the dynamic of your friendship, because it is the thing with like friendships versus romantic relationships and even like relationships with your family. Conflict is so hard with friendships, I think, because we don't expect to go into a friendship and it ending with conflict. Whereas you grow up fighting with your family basically from the second that you're out of the womb. Like that's just what family dynamics are like. And then same with romantic relationships. So I feel like we're more comfortable bringing up things and having hard conversations with those types of relationships versus with friendships, because it almost feels like if I bring something up, then like there's no going back or we're going to be walking on eggshells. But I think the way that I sort of approach it is that not every single like conversation has to be a confrontation. Doesn't have to be a fight. And I also think sometimes you pick your battles and it's you either have the tough conversation or I do actually think it's okay to do just like the silent boundary and distance yourself from a friendship if you need to, because not every friend is going to be the sort of person that you can sit down with and be like, hey, like this happened and it made me feel like this and I'd love to work on this together. I think you just need to weigh that up within yourself and be like, do I actually want this friendship to continue? Like what is making me hold on? Is it the fact that we've been friends for 10 years and I feel like we've got a lot of history together? Do I actually really care about this person and feel like we can come back from it? Or do I just feel like an obligation that I have to try and save this friendship? And you don't always have to.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we do build it up a little bit more than it needs to be. Like
Yeah.
if Sal and I, like we travel a lot, we spend a lot of time together and we don't fight because if there's like a weird moment, we'll be like, oh shit, sorry, I didn't mean that. Like that's it.
Yeah.
Like if I'm like hungry or tired and like I'll hear that I have like a dry or like tense tone to her and I'll be like, oh shit, sorry, I actually didn't mean it like that. And then she's like, yeah, no dramas. And just nipping things in the bud. Like if you wake up with anxiety and you're like, fuck, did I say something and like really offend my friend last night? Just send him a text.
Just check in.
Just check and be like, hey, I'm really sorry if I overstepped last night. Let me know if you want me to call you. I was a dickhead. Love you. Bye. That's
Yeah.
it.
Absolutely.
That's
I think
it.
there's so much in when we're talking about like animosity or whatever it is. It's
Yeah.
because it's in the unsaid. It's
Yeah,
because people
exactly.
aren't saying things, or when they say things, it's like has to be
Yeah,
a dramatic,
I
not just like
know.
a text, a check-in. It's all good.
I mean, there's obviously nuance to it that like sometimes it is like a conversation, but I think that has to happen when you don't address it and it's been like over months. And
Yeah,
then
and
that's when you have to go and be like, should we get a coffee and talk about it? And I'm like, "Ugh,
and
I hate
sometimes
it."
then it's kind of hard to explain because it's all like
Yes.
incremental or whatever it is,
Yeah.
or a feeling that you're not really sure of. Yeah,
It's literally girl so confusing.
girls so
Like,
confusing.
that is the entire dynamic.
But every time you do have a conflict with a friend, it is an opportunity to like strengthen the relationship more and like
Yes.
learn how to communicate better. Because that's the
Absolutely.
thing. It's like we've had, and then it's like, I've learned being like, okay, when I do this, it's confusing. Or when I do this, it may come across that I'm being short when I don't mean to. So like you actually can evolutionize your friendship in a way that you end up growing together rather than apart.
But I think that's why you learn a lot in conflict when you
Yes,
finally
yes, yes,
have a
yes.
conflict with a friend, because you learn a lot about how you manage those situations.
Yeah.
That's when you maybe realize you're different or whatever it is as well.
Yeah.
If they're like
Yeah.
not open to the conversation
Yeah.
or if they're like not letting it go, whatever it is.
Yeah, super
that conflict
defensive.
management
Yeah.
Yeah.
says a lot. Yeah.
Because one of Salaman's biggest conflicts was that I lied to her about a guy for like 6 months.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. Was it 6 months or maybe it was like 3 months? I don't know. I have no time. Like,
It's all a blur.
like what month is it?
It was during lockdown too, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, it
that's-
wasn't during
that's-
lockdown.
No, sorry, it was like, yeah, after that. It was like between the 2020, 2021 lockdown when time was like not
Yeah,
a
it was
construct.
crazy. And I had been seeing someone that Sal hated, and I just like didn't tell her about it because I was scared of what she was going to say. And then we got really drunk and I was like, I have to tell you something. And then she's like, what? And I was like, I slept with blah, blah, blah. And she started crying, but more from a place that she felt terrible that I felt like I couldn't tell her. And then I felt terrible for lying to her because she'd be like, what are you doing tonight? I'd be like, I'm going to my cousin's birthday's luncheon. And
You know
like,
it's not a
was
good
just-
guy when you lie.
I was
Yeah.
straight up fibbing, not even white lies. Like I was lying. Like, and that was like the thing that it was like, okay, I was like, I should not be lying to my best friend and needed to own up to that. But then also like helped our relationship because Sal was like, I will be honest with you, but I don't want to like you to not be able to come to me. So like we both learnt from that experience and it's a funny story now.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, I can also sort of put some of my feelings aside about this person, but also like I can't be the person that you come to if you're like complaining about everyday thing because I'm like, you know how I feel about it. Like, you know what
Yes.
I'm going to say.
Yeah.
I've said
so
my piece.
I can't really, because it's like not necessarily that situation, but I think for a lot of friends, it's emotionally draining to be
girl, it was
that.
emotional.
But to be basically like the therapist to your friend
Yeah.
when they're dating someone or they're just in a scenario that is bad for them and you've given them the same advice over and over.
You gotta let the birdie fly free.
You just, you've got to
And
be
you're like,
there for
you
your
make your own
friends. but-
mistake. And I do, and as well, like, it's not like Sal was like, Dan, you're on your own, kid. If you go fuck yourself up, then
Yeah.
that's on you. Like, when it ended, which it did.
As
Let
predicted.
the record show what Sal said would happen did in fact happen. And when it did in fact happen, Sal was not like, told ya, you dumb
Yeah.
bitch, blah,
No.
blah, blah. Like, Sarah was still there for me. And like,
course.
that's a friendship. But it's, again, that was her setting boundaries, being like, look, if you're going to keep doing this, I love you. I'm still your best friend and you can talk to me. Don't lie to me. But also you can't keep staying in a toxic cycle and expecting me
Yeah.
to like put a lot of effort into the advice that I'm giving you and blah, blah, blah. And then you just throw it in my face and go and do the same thing again. And I was like, it's so fair.
I feel like I hear that all the time when people hate friends' boyfriends.
Yeah.
Do you know what a good thing to do is always call them a wrong name? I did that with a guy and his name was Sean and I kept calling him Shane. No, his name was Shane and I kept calling him Sean and he would be like, it's Shane. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry you did tell me that. And then he'd be going to get a drink and I'd be like, oh, Sean, can I get a vodka lemon? And he'd be like, it's Shane. And I was like, oh, did I do it again? Oh, no. That's crazy. Just call them the wrong name. It's so fun.
Yeah, that'll help save the friendship.
You can do that to all guys.
Honestly,
Don't
because
narrow
when
it.
he's there, you're like, why is, like, she's there as a goddess, then he's there. And you're like, fuck. It helps you get through the night so much more when you're being like, hey, Todd. And he's like, it's Tom.
But it's similar. If someone hated who I was dating,
Hypothetical.
That is crazy, Sarah. That's crazy.
Or I wasn't we all could tell something was going to end badly with another friend. It is so hard to be there, but I think exactly what you said, it's the same advice, which is I will give you this advice 5 times. Maybe that's my cap. And then I can't give you the same advice over and over again.
Yeah.
You have to work this out on your own.
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. And that is how I felt in that relationship.
Yeah.
One of my friends, actually, I heard her give this advice, and I've heard her give it a few times. And I think it's brilliant because it's so kind and so scathing at the same time.
Hit me.
She'll say, you just need to go through it, but you'll come out the other end and realize. And you go, okay. And she goes, it's that you just need to work it out for yourself. So it's so it kind of implies everyone knows.
Yeah.
You're just, and everyone does know.
You'll come out
It's
the other end
correct.
and realize.
And
that
realize.
is the sting.
And then people will go back to her and they'll be like, and you were right.
And she's
Yeah.
yeah. Not to deep it, but I will say as well, of course, this doesn't necessarily apply if your friend is in a genuinely abusive relationship or
100%.
situation. With that, you're giving the advice every single time that you can,
You're
and every
always
single
there,
time.
yeah,
We're
yeah.
talking about, they're probably more orange flags than red flags with the partners.
It's more just not what she deserves.
Exactly.
Situation.
Yeah.
There's something this conversation made me think of with red flags and green flags was actually, I'm trying to remember who said it first. I think it's actually an really old Tinks theory.
Ooh.
And I have just remembered it always. And I think it is weirdly really great advice, is the fatal flaw theory.
Ooh.
Have you guys heard this?
No, tell me.
So it's the idea that, say you have a group of friends that
think I
you
do.
know and
Yeah.
love, but everyone, including yourself, would have a fatal flaw.
Yes.
And it's you kind of know that's their downfall. They are great friends in lots of ways, but maybe they're really bad at texting. They fall off the face of the earth every now and again. Or they have...
Okay. Check.
Yeah,
sometimes-
that felt personal.
All right. What's your next one?
they're not known for having the most self-awareness, or whatever it is. It's this... Anything I say. And they're called Alex.
I'm so is this an intervention? No, I'm kidding.
Whatever it is, but you know that about them. You know that that's their fatal flaw. And I think the thing is, you can't keep getting mad at them for something that you know is them.
Yeah.
So you either decide, you recognize it and you go, okay, I know that's their fatal flaw and I accept it.
Yeah.
Or you go, actually, I hate that and I'm going to remove myself from this friendship because I do have a problem with that. Rather than just continuing to have a problem with the same thing.
There's a popular saying that's you like because you love despite. Which kind of reminds me of that because you like your friends because they make you laugh and you have a lot of fun. You love them despite the fact that they are a shit texter or when they're hungover, they're literally a wild boar. And I really embrace that because as well, once you get older and when you spend a lot of time with friends, they're going to piss you off.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to annoy you. And that's what's just going to happen because your people will become like your family, especially in that 20s space where you kind of have your found family and you spend a lot of time together and you end up having the energy that you're maybe it's because they have been really stingy on, returning drinks in advance or whatever it is. That sometimes your friends are going to piss you off and that's fine. Not every time that your friends annoy you needs to be a thing. Sometimes you're just that was annoying and then you move past. It's a fatal flaw. I love that.
Yeah.
I think it's a good theory because it's again to that thing of not putting so much pressure on your friendships to be perfect all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not. We're all very messy, especially in our 20s.
Totally.
Yeah.
And forever, actually. Even I hear my mum's
doesn't actually
I actually
end.
don't know no, it doesn't. I don't think it does. I think your female friend or whatever friendships will continue, because like then the next stage is like who's having kids, who's getting married. There'll always be something.
If anything, I feel like the issues that we deal with get more complicated as we get older. And that's why you have to give your friends more grace.
It really is a platonic because that is exactly what you'd expect from like a partner.
Oh
or
yeah,
something.
Sal and I are married.
Yeah,
Sal and I
essentially.
are, like literally married.
But the same like consideration that you would have or expect in a relationship is really what you should be giving your friends as well.
Yeah.
The origin of like platonic soulmate was written by Plato, and his quote is like, man was split in two. And like back in ye olden days, man was just referred to like everyone, like mankind. And so finding your soulmate doesn't necessarily make it romantic. I absolutely believe wholeheartedly that Sal is like my soulmate, because it's so fucking weird how similar and the things that we like, but also it's like the differences that make such relationships strong and that you can like get through that. And I think friendships and female friendships and platonic soulmates are finally getting the snaps they deserve.
And I think something that's so special about your friends is you really do pick them. Like you're not really clouded by anything else. Like family you love, but you're given family.
Yeah.
And friendship you really choose. Relationships you choose as well, you would hope. But you're not clouded by like attraction or like wanting to be in a like your friends you truly have like no strings attached. You chose them, which is I think why it hurts so much when things shift.
Yeah.
But also then if you do find you're outgrowing or you're at a different stage and it's not that you don't love your friends, but you're going to come back, like put a pin in it. How would you go about making friends as an adult?
Oh, okay. I love this question. And to bring up Sex and the City again,
Yes.
we actually talk about this in the book as well. And we have a whole chapter on how to make friends as an adult. But at the start, we rip the Band-Aid off and we basically say, not everyone's going to want to be your friend. Like that's, I think the easiest way to make friends as an adult is realizing that not everyone is going to want to be your friend. And like the rejection therapy of that is probably the biggest hump to get over. And there is this scene in Sex and the City, which you take a layer of that and apply it to this, because Miranda is saying that like dating men is like the taxi theory, the cab theory. And that like when men are ready, they wake up that day, they turn their cab light on, and the first person that gets in the cab is who they're going to marry, end up and have babies with.
Yeah.
Which like
It's flawed.
It's flawed. But there is an element of truth to it in terms of the emotional availability people have to make new friends. Some people's cab will be full. Some people's cab will be out of petrol and they're tired and they don't have the emotional capacity. And the key to making friends as an adult is finding people with their cab light on.
That is so true. And I think it's also a personality thing, and like people approach as we're saying, everyone approaches friendships differently and has different love languages with it. I love making new friends. On a night out, I love talking to strangers.
Yeah,
I love
girl in the
meeting.
girls' bathroom.
I love the girls'
Being
bathroom.
like, where'd you get that top? Do you need a tampon? I don't have my period, but I brought some just in case.
I'm doing all of it. I have friends that I adore, and they will look me blankly in the eye and say, I don't want to make any new friends. And it's not that they're a bad person, but in their head, it's quite stressful. My cup is full.
Their cab's full.
And it used to blow my mind because I was like, that's so rude. Like, I don't
You
understand.
bitch.
Yeah. I'm like, pretty sure that just means you're being a bitch. But I guess it's different. It's just such different ways of approaching it. It's not wrong, but you're right. Some people just are very set and happy. And then trying to break through on that is like kind of only going to hurt yourself.
Exactly. They miss out on you. And when you kind of realize that, it then makes the rejection less personal. Not that I'm saying you're going out and someone's like, boo, no, blocked. But like it makes it less personal and you can focus and then put yourself in environments that are going to be more likely to have the cab light on people. So like we've got a friend who just signed up for dance classes. She's never done dance classes in her entire life. And I know people might listen to this and be like, bitch, I'm not going to go to a fucking dance class. But whatever it is to you, whether it's going to Pilates or going for a walk or sitting in a cafe and then turning to the person next to you, like there is an element of, there's two reasons why people struggle to make friends as an adult, and it's time and vulnerability. You have to invest time and you have to have time to foster the new relationship, and that is sending the text and actually doing it. And then it's also the vulnerability of putting yourself out there and developing that friendship. And it's a lot easier. Like if you just shoot your shot half the time, I swear people will be like, yeah, vibes.
Yeah, people respond to that. And I also think like with the internet, it is of course very flawed and has caused many problems for us all, but it has also connected us with people in incredible ways. And I think it's an amazing tool that we should be using to find new people who have the same interests as us and actually turning those internet friends into real life
IRL.
friendships, because that also takes away some of that fear. It's kind of like a dating app.
I was gonna say, it's like asking someone out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the first hang's the hardest.
And you're finding people that actively have similarities with you. Because I think a lot of, and maybe that's sometimes that outgrowing thing in your 20s, because you make these friends sometimes at like 13 years old. You don't really know who we're going to be yet. And then everyone grows up and is different and we're shocked and surprised by it.
Yeah, so true.
There was this study that showed that 91% of people that once called someone a best friend no longer call that person a best friend. And I think that really normalizes the growth we have individually and takes away the thing of being like, oh, you're not friends with that one person you met when you were 12 years old. Like, that's okay. That's so fine. It also doesn't mean like a mushroom cloud fight happened. Like,
No.
you just sometimes outgrow friendships or grow in separate lanes parallel to one another. And like, that's fine. Friendship breakups are normal.
And there's so many friends that I wouldn't see as often now, and probably just time you've drifted from. That doesn't mean you're not their biggest cheerleader, like from the sidelines.
Did you watch White Lotus?
Oh my God. That is secret animosity.
That was crazy.
Crazy.
That
and
was
crazy because I feel like everyone has experienced an element
Oh my
of
God.
those three friends. So if people haven't watched,
yeah.
there are three friends that go on this vacation together. They've been friends since college or whatever it is,
Yeah.
longtime friends. And they straight up all hate each other, but like won't admit it the entire time.
And then whenever one's like, it's a trio, whenever one's gone, the two bitch about that one. And then when another one's gone, then the two bitch about that
Oh
one.
my God, they take it in shifts.
Yeah, literally. And it was just wild. And then by the end of the show, like the way they wrapped it, I was like, eh? But the way they wrapped it was like they actually just were honest. And was like, and one of them was just like, you piss me off when you do this and you piss me off when you do this. And it was the fatal flaw thing of being like, but I still love you. It was still a weird ending. But like, and they absolutely should take some time apart.
But it was a good sign as well because there was something very triggering about watching it because it felt very high school.
Yeah.
And yet these women in it are like 40 or 30, whatever, I don't know. They're older.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God, high school goes on forever.
But that's the
Yeah.
thing is they could smell the bitching. So it's
They
like
knew it.
they knew and they would feel excluded. So like if one wasn't with them and they would see the other two talking, they would feel like excluded and they could like smell it.
You
And it
can
was this
sense those things.
insecurity that if that like underlying insecurity of being like, oh, if I don't go, they're going to talk about me. In like
Oh,
friendship
yeah.
groups, there's like toxic friends and then there's toxic friendship groups. And that's like a whole other thing.
But the clickiness.
It's like the group think. And it's like, no, we. It's when you, like friendships start talking as like a we that it's like la 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 la.
Like cult vibe.
no, it's terrifying.
That's what it is. It's cult.
It is.
If your friendship group feels like a cult, it's probably toxic.
And there's something about I've been in friendship groups before that have felt pretty culty.
Yeah.
And coming out of a cult is also an experience in
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
Because as well, if like the like red flags of a toxic friendship group is if you're always talking in we, if there's a head bitch that's like, no, if they don't ever want anyone outside of the group to join.
Sorry, it's just the group
Sorry,
tonight.
it's just the group
Yeah.
tonight. Sorry.
If individual friends within the group can't spend time together
Yeah.
alone without it being an issue or like that's offensive to the group.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Things
again, you're like, amazing, close group. We love that. Like, cherish that. But there is such a fine line between that and I think you're in a cult.
Yeah.
Sorry, bestie, you're in a cult.
When's the wellness training program coming
yeah.
out?
When are we having a greens juice?
on this note, while we're here, what do you think is the worst friendship advice you can have?
Oh, wait. It's too nuanced.
No, take me to it. Take me to it.
I was going to say, do you think you can fuck your friends?
I've had this debate.
And where did you land?
I don't think you can fuck your friends.
I don't think you can fuck your
Yeah.
I don't think you can fuck your friends.
No, I don't think you
and
can
I'm
fuck
sure
your
people are going to
friends.
come at me for saying that.
I think it's
Or
a very
I
rare
can't fuck
friendship.
my friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe I should just speak for myself
Yeah.
on that, but no way.
Well, all you can speak from is your own experience.
Yes.
I think unless you
but-
want to date them,
Yeah.
like and you're fully in love with them and it's a friends to lovers scenario, then sure.
But that's
It's tough for that
different.
everyone
'Cause
wants the friends to lovers scenario. And
No, but some people don't.
Some people
and
want
that's
just the
where
friends with
how it's
benefits.
crazy
like,
business.
you should be friends first, and they're the most beautiful relationships, etc. And so I've always kind of believed that, but like, I don't.
We do
Yeah.
have some friends that
Fell
became
in love.
lovers, and like that's so genuine. But it was always from a genuine place. Whereas like I think if you're trying to get like kinky boots with like a friend at like 2 a.m.
Friends with benefits.
Friends with benefits, rah,
Doesn't work.
never.
I don't think so.
Never.
Tuv.
Yeah, I'm a jealous person.
Yeah, I'm a needy little girl.
I just don't think I could go back to being friends entirely. Well, it's kind of the same like premise of being friends with exes.
Yeah.
Like it's not, they're an ex in some form then, by then.
Yeah.
We've crossed the
No,
line.
It's true, yeah.
And then do you think you can be friends with an ex?
No.
No.
It's like saying the dog died, let's keep it. Like, I don't know.
Oh my God, I love that.
Why would I keep, like, it's dead.
Oh my God, stop.
Oh my God.
I love that.
I have seen friends successfully do it.
Same.
And in saying that, the ones that I think can do it were ones that were friends first and they have a friendship to get back to. And I do think it takes time and I don't think they can immediately do it. But I do think there are scenarios if you were friends first that you can like get back to that eventually. Depending on the circumstance. Also depending how it ended. Sometimes you fall out of love and then it's like you
And
still
you're
have
basically
love
friends
as a
at
friend.
the, yeah,
And you
at the
kind of
end
are
of the
friends by the end.
relationship. Yeah.
I think it's good to always have that space after it though.
I think
You know how
need,
some people-
you need to recalibrate.
Yeah.
And then like re-engage in a new type of relationship if you're going to be in their lives.
Yeah, fully.
But also I wouldn't really want to be friends with an ex. And if I was dating someone and they were like really close with their ex, I probably would hate that.
I
Not
would be in
hate that,
jail.
but I'd be like,
No.
You'd feel insecure at the beginning of a relationship.
No.
Yeah.
If I was dating someone and they were like, yeah, we dated for 3 years and there's nothing there, but we're like best friends now, I'm packing a bag.
but you hear about it.
Yeah.
And
It
you know what?
does
That's the thing.
exist.
It's just a personal thing. Like
Yeah.
exactly what you were saying before. All you can speak from is your personal experiences and what you're comfortable with. And you don't have to change that.
Yeah.
Like just because other people are comfortable with it. Like there are
I
people
agree.
that are like, no, I'm fine with that. And you know what? Power to them. Simply could never.
Yeah. And there are some circumstances where you would need to do that. Like if you were married and had children.
True.
And then, you know, you started dating someone and you found out they had an ex-wife and kids and you found out they were friends, you'd probably be like, oh, okay, that's actually really healthy. You guys
That's
still
so
have a
true.
nice
I don't
friendship.
It's maturity.
Think of that.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, smart girl Sal. Meanwhile,
There
being
is
like,
caveat.
boo,
We're
no.
like, never.
I'm like, sorry, you can't see your kids anymore.
It's because I've passed the threshold of 30, so I can see that future for people in my life. I'm like, oh, divorce could be on the cards in the
Do
future.
you guys think, and I have not had this experience, do you think it would be weird if a guy you were seeing would see his ex because they still shared a pet? Like, do you think he'd be like, we have a joint dog, so my ex is still in my life? I have no idea.
I actually don't know
I
about
have
that
seen
one.
this
Have
happen,
you?
play out, and it didn't work out well.
I
One of them
don't-
ended up having to basically say goodbye to the dog and leave that like part in their old life. I think it can be really complicated.
I think I would just have someone keep the dog.
Yeah, I don't think
if
you
it
can
was
do
me
shared
breaking up with
custody.
someone, I would either fight to keep the dog or I would let them. I think the shared custody I would find
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah.
Like if I was dating someone and they were going to like their ex's house every 2 weeks to go and pick up the dog.
What? I mean, horrendous. Do you know what my parents did? We had 2 dogs and they parent trapped them. They split their sisters.
Oh yeah, because I feel like I remember you
Little
saying that one of
cavoodles.
your dogs was coming over for the weekend, like
Yeah.
and I was like, oh my god,
Yeah.
it's like a step sibling.
Okay, well, to finish this, I do want to come back to the ultimate question is what do you think was the best friendship advice you've heard?
I think mine is be the type of friend that you want to have.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah, and I think that also helps you consider your friendships with a little bit more understanding and grace. But, you know, if you're like, oh, well, they never text me, they never organize the plans, it's like, well, do you? Like, and kind of, I guess, showing those things to your friendships And again, it's like demonstrating the love languages that you require from your friendship. If you are a quality time person, then you need to put that effort in for your other friends to understand that and then also reciprocate that to you.
I think mine is, and like on the topic of finding your people, is a quote that I feel like I needed when I was really struggling with friendships. And basically the reason why we wrote the entire book is that they're coming, and no matter where you are in life, you haven't found all the people who will love you yet.
I love that quote.
And how cool is that? Like, no matter how old you are, no matter how young you are, no matter where you're living, where you're working, you have not found all the people who will love you yet. And that's just like the most inspiring and open way to look at life, with like sparkly eyes.
That's such a perfect end. If you resonate with those green flags, if you feel like the energy that you're putting into a friendship is what you're getting in return, then you found your people. And you might not have found all of them, but you found a few of them.
There's more.
Yeah.
There's always more. But yeah.
Oh, thank you guys so much
I found
for coming
my people
on.
in this room.